All right. Well, I wanted to thank you again, Diane, for doing this for us at the library. I really appreciate it, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So, Diane, did you want to just give just like a little brief introduction about yourself?
Well, I'm Diane Haggerty. You can see that on the screen. I'm an enrolled agent, which means I'm licensed by the IRS to represent people in tax matters. So most of my business has to do with being taxed, um, paying taxes, operating a business, anything that's going to wind up having to generate tax money. That's why I'm here. I can help with all those things. So I'm on the square in Fayetteville when my office is open, which it hasn't been for 2 months. So, but I am here via Zoom and Skype and Facebook and email and all those things. I am still working in my lovely kitchen. So.
Very good. Thank you. Well, I was going to start with a question that I'm sure is on a lot of people's minds, the stimulus checks. Would you mind to talk a little bit about stimulus checks and who's eligible and that sort of thing?
Sure. Everybody is eligible to get one that has a social security number. And that's it. If you have a social security number, you should be eligible to get a stimulus check. It is $1,200. If you are a qualifying child, not going to say dependent, I'm going to say a qualifying child, which means you live with your parents or your legal guardians, you're under 17 years old, or you're a student, so up to age 24 if you're in college. But if you are somebody's qualifying child, the person who claims you will get an additional $500. If you are someone's dependent and you are not a qualifying child, such as your parents or your person who lives with you, whoever it is, if you claim somebody is dependent and they are not a qualifying child, they do not and are not eligible to get a stimulus payment. Most people have gotten them by now. If you receive Social Security, veterans benefits, they have your direct deposit and or some people get their benefits on a direct express card. It should automatically come on there. Has everybody gotten it yet? No. They are still talking about, I think May 8th, a lot of people got their stimulus payments, but there's still people that haven't gotten it. It takes time. I mean, they just don't have a directory of everybody in the United States that's never filed a tax return or not. Because, I mean, you don't have to file a tax return to have a social security number, so.
Very good. That's very helpful. So what should you do if things have changed since you filed your taxes? How do you let that IRS how do you get your money?
Okay, either your connection is bad or my connection is bad. Can somebody kind of give me an indication of, because Leah has completely frozen up. Although I can see Amy moving.
Yeah, I think it was Leah might have been cutting out a little.
Okay. Oh, Kelly Black is here. Yay. Hi, Kelly Black. So if things have changed, there's a lot of things that I'm not really sure that we can do. If you have moved, you do need to notify the IRS of your address change. If you have closed your bank account, you do need to notify the IRS of your bank account change. However, they have set up a great tool. If you go to irs.gov and you just click on Get My Payment, it will take you to a tool where you can change that information. Big however, though, it's broke. It doesn't work very well for everybody. So there's a lot of people, they enter their social security number, they enter their bank account information, they enter their address, and they're like, it's wrong. And you're looking at it and you know this information is right. It's just because they haven't uploaded all the information into their computer yet. Their database is constantly updating, so they recommend checking back once a day. So what happens, here's a big question that I've gotten a lot of times is, what if I got divorced and we don't have that joint bank account, but he kept it and I'm just not on that bank account anymore, and do I get my stimulus payment? Unfortunately, if that bank account is still open, it's going to go into the bank account that they had for direct deposit on your taxes for 2018 and 2019. So if your ex got all of the stimulus money and isn't giving you any, there's really nothing the IRS can do about it. That is something you're going to have to take up with your lawyer or your ex. And I really hate to tell people that, but if the wrong person got the money and it went into the right account, there's really nothing they can do, even though they didn't give you a chance to change it. So try to update your changes on the Get My Payment button, but there's no guarantee that it's going to work. I'm sorry. It's broken for a lot of people. Oh, I see a question here at the bottom that says, will I have to pay it back? That was a huge question that really wasn't clear until about 2 weeks ago. The IRS gave some guidance. Originally, they were saying it was going to be based on your 2020 income. So if you made too much money in 2020, but you didn't in 18 and 19, and they gave you the payment anyway, you'd wind up having to pay it back. The IRS has changed that. They are not going to make you pay it back. If they sent you a payment, you get to keep it, basically. They are recommending if you got a payment for someone who is deceased to send it back, but I'm really not sure how they can enforce that. I'm really not sure how they can enforce that because I don't know how they're going to collect on that. But they are saying if you got a check for somebody who is now deceased, send it back. But other than that, they're not requiring a payback from anybody.
And then on our next taxes, we want to make sure that we claim that money, right?
It is not taxable income, but you will have to reconcile it on there. I'm not sure. They haven't made up the forms yet. They won't come out till November or so. So I won't really know exactly how you reconcile it, but you are going to, supposedly, they've backtracked on it a little. You were supposed to reconcile it on your 2020 taxes, but now they're saying since you don't have to pay it back, I'm wondering if it's even going to be on there at all. But it is not going to be taxable income.
Hi, Diane. Are you familiar with unemployment?
Yeah. Oh, okay, I've got somebody on here that's not muted. Hi, I just see your phone number. I don't catch your name, so I'm sorry.
It's Kelly. It's Kelly. This is Kelly Thomas, Mayan, Holy Cross.
Oh, hi, Kelly. Oh my gosh, somebody I haven't talked to in like 35 years. Hi, Kelly. Do I know about unemployment? I know much about Arkansas unemployment because that's where we are. I'm not terribly sure about, but the general laws, yeah, I can help you with that.
All right, I just have a quick question. So I have it says I have $800 left to claim. Usually I only claim in the summertime because I'm a crossing guard. So now that I'm out of work longer than I normally am, it's going to run out. It says I have $800 left or whatever. Do you know if they're extending that amount, or once it runs out and then I still keep getting that $600?
Yes, when it runs out, when your state runs out, they're not extending the state, but that is up to your state. Your state might, but you will continue to get up to 39 weeks of the $600 a week that's coming from the federal.
Oh, okay. That's my question. That's why I came on here. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's just funny. It's because I have Facebook friends from people from 30 years ago and shut up, 30 years, 20 years ago. Anyway.
That's funny. Yeah, I didn't
in my mind how long ago it was. We're not that old. But anyway, well, that's great. It's great to hear from you.
I get all your, I take all your information in and I share it, and everybody's getting great information from you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All the way from New Jersey.
Yes, all the way from New Jersey. So I'm going to tap out now. That was my only question. And I figured I could get it from you faster than calling unemployment, which you cannot get through to.
No, you generally cannot get through to unemployment without it taking all day.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care. Love you, girl.
All right. Love you too.
All right. Bye.
Do we have another
Thank
question?
you, Diane. Oh, this is Leah. I'm on my phone now, so I'm hoping that you can hear me. But we did have another question there in the chat related to unemployment, which is unemployment taxed?
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. And that is, that's an issue that has changed recently in the state of Arkansas. I know most of our people here are from Arkansas, some aren't, but I know in the state of Arkansas, the problem is that about 2 years ago, the state started making it taxable income, where it has never been taxable with the state. So state money that's coming from the state has always been like tax-free because it's from the state. Unfortunately, about 2 or 3 years ago, the state decided they wanted to tax unemployment. So not only is it taxable by the federal government, of which they will withhold 10%, which if you're in the 12% tax bracket, oh, that's not enough. They'll withhold 10% on the federal, and they're not withholding any for state taxes, and I'm not even seeing an option to withhold for state taxes when you apply. But I have a feeling this is not only going to be taxed by the federal, but this year it's also going to be taxed by the state, which is really frightening because they're not doing any withholding. So you're probably going to wind up having to cut a check for the state. Although my crystal ball isn't available right now, I can imagine, you know, looking into it saying, is it going to be taxable? But I don't know, they might change their mind, but knowing the state, they're going to want to cut. So I see some chat. Is there some questions down there? I really can't see them.
Nope, not anymore since the is unemployment tax question.
Okay.
But another question that I had from the interview that you had done is, if you are in a tough spot, is it a good idea right now to tap into your retirement money?
You know, that's a great question. And that's something that everybody should think about right now. If you have money in retirement, my golden rule, every time somebody says, should I take money out of my retirement? I have this huge answer. And I'm like, no. Just don't take money out of retirement. But I am tending to change my mind on that right now. Because the IRS, and part of the CARES Act that came out, you know, the most recent legislation, part of that said that you can take, you can borrow, usually you can borrow $50,000 out of your retirement 401k at work, and then you have to like pay it back. They changed that to $100,000. So if you already have a 401k at work and you've already borrowed against it, you could potentially borrow more from it, although the payback is still 5 years. If you take money out of your IRA right now, you can take it out, hang on to it for 60 days, move it into a different bank, and put it in another bank, and it's just considered a rollover. So basically you take your money out for 60 days and put it back. And that's what I call the 60-day swing. You have clock starts ticking, you can take it out of this bank, you can open an account with another bank. They allow you to do that. You don't have to do a bank-to-bank rollover. So there's a 60-day swing there that you can take your money out and use it. The IRS has changed that, and actually Congress has changed that to a 3-year swing. So if you take money out of your retirement now, you have 3 years to get it back in there. Hopefully, if you take money out of your retirement, you can make, you take it out in 2020, you can do a payback on that every year on your taxes a little bit, and hopefully you can get it all paid back in 3 years. There will not be the 10% penalty for early withdrawal. There will not be the tax on the income. They're not going to tax you on it. I don't know exactly how it's all going to work on the forms yet, so make sure to consult with your tax professional, or me, but consult with your tax professional before you try to pay it back, to make sure it's being paid back, and talk to your broker or wherever your money is being held, because you could potentially mess that up. But there is an allowance. If you take money out of your retirement, you have 3 years to get it back in there, and that's kind of a break right now. So if you really need to do something big, like I've got to trade in my car and now I can't make my car payments, let's trade in my car and get a smaller car and lower payments. This would be a good time to buy a car. That would be something that I would tell you to take out retirement on. Taking money out of retirement to buy groceries, it depends on how desperate you are. But don't take money out of retirement to buy a new purse or get your hair done, though. That's always a bad idea. So.
Very good. Thank you. What about this extra $600 per week that's going along with unemployment? Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Oh, I'm going to talk specifically about the state of Arkansas. Which you see me twitching here. See, I got this twitch. Anyway, they're making me mad. I'm gonna try and stay calm, cool, and collected. The Congress passed the pandemic assistance. In other words, it's unemployment through the state, but it's funded by the federal. So you still have to apply through your state to get the federal money. There's no magic federal portal to go to get the extra money. You just apply through your state. Why is it $600 a week? That's 40 hours a week at $15 an hour. It was easier for them to give people some people more than they were earning, rather than try to figure out, like, well, does this person make more? Does this, we don't want to pay people more than they were already making. And then, well, how do you sort those people out? And okay, that was this huge bureaucratic, gigantic math problem that nobody wanted to do. So they just said, why don't we just give everybody $600 a week? So that worked. So in higher income states, California, New York, New Jersey, $600 a week doesn't go really far. In states like Arkansas, $600 a week is a lot of money to some people. That's like your rent in some places. You can't live on that in bigger states. So people here think, oh, that's a lot of money. So the state somehow is not releasing the money very quickly. And I'm very disappointed with the way they're doing that. People that are self-employed should have been getting unemployment already. Now they're saying that they're going to get unemployment by the end of this month. It has been it will be 2.5 months that people haven't gotten paid. People that, photograph weddings, and people that do hair and that are self-employed have not gotten any relief whatsoever. And will it go back? Will you get 10 back weeks of unemployment? Yeah. Is that going to get you back into the apartment you had before you were evicted? No. Is that going to give your life back? So it's taken a long time, especially self-employed people. Been very difficult to get the $600 a week, but I just keep saying, just apply. The new site is up. It's arunemployment.com, I think. But if you just go with AR Unemployment, there's a new site to apply on if you're self-employed. It took them a while to get the website up. That I understand. The governor was like, here's $400,000, get a website up from the ground up and just build a whole new system. So they did that in 3 weeks, which is quite impressive. Is it broke? Yeah. Did it work on the first day? No. Is it still working correctly? Maybe. But nobody's still gotten a check. Unless you applied right at the beginning. I have some people that got it right at the beginning, but then they changed their mind and decided not to do it through that portal and put everybody on hold. So my heart's there with you people. If you haven't got your unemployment yet, I feel really bad, but they are talking about the end of this month. So hopefully you'll be able to pay next month's rent.
That was very helpful. Thank you. What if you are sick or you have to stay home with your kids because school is happening at home too now? Can you still get unemployment?
Can you get unemployment if you're sick? Or, well, it's two separate questions. If you have to be, ordinarily for unemployment, you have to be available and able to work. Those two things. If you are not able and available to work, they generally do not grant you unemployment. But you can, the state won't. But the federal, the $600 a week unemployment, you can get that if that's the only reason you're not working is because you can't come in for a COVID-19 reason. And the feds are pretty clear on that. It's on their website, so basically you have to stay home, you have to take care of somebody, you're sick, you've been quarantined, a doctor told you to quarantine, you did the little telehealth call up, where's my phone? Call up the phone and be like, hey, I have COVID. And they're like, hey, yeah, maybe you should quarantine. That, you don't even see a doctor. You should be able to continue to collect unemployment. However, as many people are on unemployment, they may change their mind on that. It always looks shaky when you're getting free government money. So.
Very good. Thank you. So if the reason you can't work is that you have to stay home with your kids because they're out of school, you would not qualify.
You should qualify for unemployment since that's the only reason that you're not able and unavailable. You're otherwise, other than school being closed and having a COVID-19 reason, you are able and available to come to work. Or say, you just can't. You're unable to come to work. I mean, other than that, you should be considered able and available to come to work, other than COVID-19 reasons. So like, If you don't go to work because you don't feel like it, or you don't go to work, I think everybody's ready to go back to work at this point, or you can't go to work because you've been injured or you had a baby. I have somebody that's like, well, I can get sick pay. I'm like, yeah, you can get sick pay, but you can't collect unemployment if you just had a baby. You're not able and available to go back to work yet. So that would be a different, set of things. There is sick pay available for and extended FMLA for people that are not well enough to go to work.
That made me think of a question, kind of. If you're willing and able to go to work, but can't afford childcare, is there a place that like people who can work get some kind of assistance for childcare since they don't have their kid in school or after school program?
At this point, I'm not seeing that anywhere. I haven't heard of anything because most of the child care facilities are shut down.
Yeah.
Generally, you can qualify if you can't afford daycare. You can generally qualify to get DHS vouchers, but they're hard to come by, and you have to go to a facility like a preschool, and most of those are closed at this point. I only know one daycare provider that's actually still open, and she has 2 kids, and they're actually staying with her full time now, so they're not going back and forth. So yeah.
Okay. Let's say that you are sick or you just had a baby, like you had mentioned. Who pays your sick pay if you're not working?
This is a good question, and I've had a lot of employers come to me and say, do I have to do this? And I'm like, yeah. If you work for an employer that is under 500 employees, so like if you work for Applebee's, I mean, there's only like 35 people that work there, but it's a big company, so that doesn't, so not at your location. I'm talking about 500 people total, nationwide. So if you work for a big company with more than 500 employees, this does not apply. But if you work for a small company with under 500 employees, you work for a local employer, they are supposed to pay you sick pay, 2 weeks, whatever you would normally work in 2 weeks. And then they get reimbursed for that on their payroll taxes. Now, of course, this has to be people that were already on payroll, W-2 employees, not under the table, not cash, not volunteers. I see. Oh, well, I saw somebody on here before that they have volunteer workers. Okay, you can't, but actual people that are on W-2, you pay them 2 weeks at regular rate, and you can get all of that back as a refund. If you file the correct forms with the IRS, you get basically they're going to refund you on your quarterly payroll taxes, but you don't have to wait till the end of the quarter. You can get an advance. And I haven't gotten anybody got an advance back. I faxed one in. They're done by fax. Yay, federal government. I faxed one in about a week ago, and we're seeing if he gets a check. So I really haven't gotten a response on that, how long it takes to get back, but I did put in for 2 weeks sick pay for one person's employees. If you are sick longer than that, quarantined longer than that, or if you are taking care of your children, you do not have to pay sick pay at full pay. You only have to pay it at 2/3 pay. If you are a tipped employee, that's 2/3 of regular minimum wage, not 2/3 of $2.63 an hour. You can, same thing for 10 more weeks after that. So up to 12 weeks, you can get paid FMLA leave for staying home with your children if you work for a small employer under 500 people. I have exactly one client who has done this. And I keep telling everybody, if people are leaving, if you have a reason, we can pay, you can pay them sick leave, but they have, very few people are taking advantage of this. I wish more people would, because they can get completely refunded for it. They have to be able to cash flow it. They got to pay it. They still have to pay the payroll taxes on it, but they can get the money back in a couple of weeks, uncertain number of weeks, but you can get completely reimbursed for paying your people. Questions? Nobody wants to ask a question?
I got some more to throw out
Okay.
while everyone else is thinking about it. could you please talk a little bit about the payroll protection plan?
Oh, by the way, I was corrected on that by Kelly Black, who's here in the audience. Thanks, Kelly. It's the Paycheck Protection Program. I was saying it wrong for, probably a month. And she's like, it's called the Paycheck Protection. I looked it up and she's right. Thanks, Kelly Black. Anyway, I know she's in the audience anyway. It is the Paycheck Protection Program, and has been funded twice. It was refunded again on April 24th. So I don't know if there's any money left in it or not at this point, but there's a lot to take care of, especially even if your employer has taken it on. I have to apologize. The mowers are outside of where I live. So if you hear a lot of noise coming over my mic, the mowers are right outside. If you can't hear me, let me know. Anyway, the Paycheck Protection Program was, it's through the Small Business Administration. So technically it is a Small Business Administration loan. It is for you to maintain payroll for 8 weeks. I've got a few people that their company got that. It kind of replaced unemployment. It's kind of an extension of the unemployment office. You don't actually have to work all the hours. You have to get paid for your regular schedule, but you do not actually have to work the hours if you don't have to. If your employer says, hey, come in Wednesday and let's load up the truck, okay, everybody needs to load up the truck on Wednesday. And I mean, you're still employed. You still have to go to work if you're required to. But it's not necessarily, if you don't have 40 hours worth of work, you still have to pay everybody for the 40 hours they were making anyway. You maintain that for 8 weeks. At the end of that, your employer will get reimbursed, or it was a loan, so they got the money up front. The loan can be forgiven at the end. It should be forgiven at the end if you do the paperwork correctly. So there's no guarantee, but I know there's quite a few people that are working places, and at least they have 8 weeks where they got pulled off unemployment. They're on the Paycheck Protection Program. No, even if you're sitting home doing nothing, you still can't combine programs. You can't collect unemployment and get a paycheck from your boss. You will get busted. You will have to pay the unemployment back with interest. So they do come after you, and they will figure it out. I know the IRS is already in the background, already hiring auditors. I'm surprised I haven't been headhunted myself yet. So anyway, did I answer your question well enough? I'm not quite sure. I know we don't have any I don't see anybody here that I know is a small employer, so I don't want to go too much into the details of being an employer on that.
No, that was a very good answer. So if your boss is going through the Paycheck Protection Plan, you do still have to keep going to work as your manager or whoever directs you to go to work.
As you have work, yes. Now I have some places,
Okay.
I have a place that had, let's just say, I don't want to single anybody out, but personal services through the health department, okay, so where you have to have direct contact with the clients, and they were all shut down. They just recently reopened. Everybody's been getting their paycheck for the past 3 weeks, but now it's like, okay, well, we can only work at 1/3 capacity. So you work on Tuesday, you work on Wednesday, you work on Thursday, and they're kind of splitting up the shifts that way. So yes, they're still getting paid for their 40 hours, but they have to go in when their boss tells them, so because they're still employed.
Very good. Thank you. We had a question from Virginia in the chat. Do you know when we should hear back about the Ready for Business grant we applied for on May
5th? Virginia, was that the EIDL, the emergency, or the economic injury disaster loan? Is Virginia here? Could she hear me? No? Is she texting back? I'm not really sure. I didn't really understand which one she got.
Oh, okay. She hasn't put anything.
Okay. I see it. The Ready for Business grants through the governor. I have zero information on that. I have had 0 people actually get the grant so far. So I haven't actually had anybody get a check. So if I looked into that, Yeah, the governor did send out grants because he's closed everybody down. Everybody's been closed for weeks. They're giving grants out so people can clean and like make the first week's payroll kind of thing. Since you're starting back up, and a lot of people, restaurants, bars, well, bars aren't open yet, but restaurants, hairdressers, that kind of stuff, they had to buy masks, they had to buy, personal protection equipment, they had to put dividers up and buy extra sanitizer, so they have to do all this stuff. So the governor does have grants out. I know the first time he put the grant money out, it opened up at, I think, 6 p.m. and by 6:45, all the money was gone. So he refunded, I know, 45 minutes, the money was gone. Monday, I think it was last Monday, she said May 5th. So that was probably last Monday. Does that sound right? That was open for, and I told everybody, get on your 7:45 a.m., get on there because those grants are going up again at 8 o'clock in the morning. So look, I guess, I don't know how many days it lasted before they ran out of money this time. But I haven't had anybody get a grant yet. I haven't had anybody get cash in their pocket yet from the governor. I really haven't had any guidance on that. And that should also be tax-free income that you should not have to pay tax on for your business. glad it's not just me, she says. Yeah, I haven't had anybody get an answer on that. They do take applications. I don't have a whole lot of information on the governor's plan yet, though. Oh, somebody's waving. Hi. We still have about 20 minutes to go if anybody has any questions. I'm going to put this on Facebook one more time.
What about the CARES Act support for healthcare workers? How would they go about finding and trying to apply for that?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The CARES Act support for healthcare workers?
I really don't have any, I don't have any information on that because that is out of my scope. That's not really something that's like a tax issue or something that somebody would have to resolve. I know you can get, I know there's some things out there for healthcare workers, but I'm really not sure how that's being distributed at this point. I haven't had anybody successfully get one, I'll tell you that, because they would have told me, because they would have been like, Diane, is this taxable? But I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think any, I know the unemployment is taxable. That's generally the rule, but most of these grants are not going to be considered taxable income. But I'm not really clear on any of that yet, though.
Sweet.
Leah, did you have more questions?
I was just looking back through the document and see if I had missed any. And I don't really see too many more. But would you mind to talk a little bit about if you're a quote unquote gig worker, what options you might have right now?
Oh, I'm gonna restrain myself and try not to say zero, but it's looking worse every time I look at it. Originally, in the legislation that passed, you were supposed to be able to claim sick pay for the days that you missed, or FMLA for the days you missed when you had things canceled, weddings. I have quite a few wedding photographers, so they're all just, everybody canceled their wedding, and that's just, it's a lot of money, and they had to refund their deposits, it's a lot of money. I mean, they usually take half up front. They had to refund their deposits, not only not get the work, but had to refund everybody's deposits, and that's, that's quite an economic hit. I've got a lot of just handymen, things like that. People are just, lawnmowers, people that don't really set up as a business. I got some writers. Anyway, as we move on, they're not really huge established businesses. It's just their side gig. Musicians, I have so many musicians. None of them are working because all the bars are closed. what is, originally you were supposed to, if you had canceled engagements, and this still stands true, you're still going to get reimbursed for this stuff. You can still get it, but they were supposed to build a form and be able to get an advance on it, as they did, for everything else, like the payroll taxes. But the IRS has backed out on it. They have not made a form. There is no advance. You can't get paid for it, and you will get reimbursed for it next year on your taxes. Who cares? That's next April. We're broke now. I've had originally the Paycheck Protection Program we were talking about earlier. It was supposed to extend not only from your W-2 employees, but if you paid your workers on a 1099, if you hired professional contractors, say you were a healthcare provider. I have emergency healthcare provider, and they hire nurses and they pay them on a 1099. They're not really employees. They call in, they employ them, and they get paid a flat rate for showing up to provide emergency healthcare. They're all on 1099s. None of them, because now the SBA is like, well, if they're 1099s, well, then they're self-employed. They should apply for the Paycheck Protection Program on their own as self-employed. So that was taken away. So now you have to, if you want to do the Paycheck Protection Program, you see if you can get yourself 8 weeks of pay. You'd have to prove that. So you have to have this year's taxes done, which a lot of people haven't, because all this happened before the end of tax season, the normal end of tax season. So people just haven't done it. And now taxes aren't due until July 15th. So people still haven't done their taxes. Believe me, I'm sitting next to a whole box of tax returns that need to get done. So you have to get your taxes done. You have to have, books and records. You have to show, a profit and loss sheet. You have to prove to the SBA that you're losing money. And a lot of people that just work side gigs, $100 here, $100 there, they don't have, QuickBooks and records and, profit and loss sheets and cash flow predictions. And they don't have any of that. So it's very difficult for people that are self-employed or gig workers to get Paycheck Protection Program. It's still impossible for them to get unemployment, which has also been promised to us at the end of this month. And every time I come up with a good piece of advice for someone that's self-employed, it seems to fall through, and the government doesn't follow through with what they were supposed to do, where they interpret it differently. And I'm having a hard time with a lot of my musicians and stuff. They're pretty much just barely getting by at this point.
So
I don't have any good news at all.
On that note,
should be on a happier note.
If you did have to declare bankruptcy, is it true that you should be able to at least keep your house?
Amy, I'm not an attorney, so I can't legally give advice like that, but I can tell you what I've seen generally in the past, because I've had a lot of my clients have to go through bankruptcy in the past. Okay. In order to file bankruptcy, one of the rules is you have to have all your back tax returns filed. So if you're not paying your bills, you're probably not filing your taxes. So that's first thing that the bankruptcy attorneys give me a call and say, hey, you got to file this guy's last 8 years of taxes. So yeah, it happens a lot. I get a lot of those. So I am familiar with bankruptcy, but I'm not an attorney and I cannot give legal advice. But yes, there is rules. You can look them up, the Arkansas bankruptcy rules. I'm not sure of the website exactly. I can look while we're sitting here if you want, but there is limitations. Actually, Arkansas lets you keep more than the federal limits. But yeah, you get to keep something like $8,000 in property plus your home plus your work tools. And there's things like that. You can look on the website. I know quite a few bankruptcy attorneys. I know some really, really good ones, but I have a feeling they're going to be very, 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 very busy in the next next couple of months, which is really sad. I know my divorce attorneys are all just going nuts right now. I have a feeling my bankruptcy attorneys are going to be just super busy in the next couple of months.
Thank you.
Does anybody have a happy question? I'm sorry. I feel like I just give people bad news all the time. So.
Well, it sounds like you try to give them good news, and then you get to the government part, and then all of a sudden it turns into bad news. So it's not for lack of trying.
I know. So many people, I mean, the government is trying hard to get stuff, but when it filters down to the little guy, somehow the little guy manages to get filtered out pretty often. And I see this keep happening to my self-employed people. And especially, you know, like musicians. I mean, you know how wealthy they all are, right? You see them standing on the corner, you know, playing music to make $20 on a Saturday, you know. My musicians are all broker than they ever were, and they were broke to begin with. And I really feel for them. So I'm really hoping the governor opens more things so at least they can go back to work.
I have another question that's by no means a happy one, and it might be outside your purview, but is there, as far as like taxes go, is there a difference between being furloughed and being laid off or unemployed?
Yes, actually there is. If you're furloughed, you are probably going to be called back to work at the same employer. Your job is still there. They just don't have enough work for you right now. In that case, they can continue to pay your health insurance. Unfortunately, if you were generally paying part of it as a part of your salary, as it come out of your check, you're going to wind up owing your part once you come back to work, but at least you don't completely lose your health insurance. And that's between you and your employer. If you are laid off forever, they can terminate your health insurance. So that's the biggest difference, is you can continue paying your employees benefits if they're furloughed and subject to come back to work. They are not canceling their health insurance or their 401k or anything else. You can continue to have that going.
Very good. Thank you. We've got another question in the chat from Cassidy. Are there options if you cannot file your taxes even by the new deadline? She says she's assuming many people might not be able to pay their taxes even by this deadline, and can it still be extended past July 15th, and for how long?
Yes, that is a great question, Cassidy. Thanks for asking. The tax filing deadline has been moved to July 15th. You don't have to do anything. I have a lot of people unable to get their records because they're like trying to get into the bank and it's too much to download, or they have to like go to the bank's closed, they gotta wait for stuff in the mail. You call up and you're like, well, I never got my statement and nobody works there and you can't get, okay, that's happening a lot. So people just don't have their information. I get that. If you don't have the ability to file by July 15th, you can file an extension just like you would have before. The extension is still till October 15th, though. They have not. It's not a 6 months extension from July 15th. It is only 3 months. It is still the October 15th deadline for filing. If you owe taxes and you cannot pay, well, they're not due until July 15th. They extended the pay date for July 15th, which is great because a lot of people didn't have the money. But the way things are going now, you might not have the money July 15th either. If you don't, your extension to file is not an extension to pay. Your taxes are still due July 15th. I cannot change that at this point. What happens if you can't pay? What do most people do when they don't have the money? They don't file. The answer is wrong. You have to file. Failure to file, penalties for failure to file are 10 times penalties for failure to pay. If you file and can't pay, that's great. They'll work with you. If you don't file, the penalties are 10 times more if you don't file. So you have to file, you have to come clean with them and say, hey, this is my problem. If you have extenuating circumstances past October 15th, I strongly suggest you get somebody that's a tax professional that knows how to file a partial claim, a protective claim, something like that, where you can, somebody that can file something temporarily until the real numbers come in. And you have to have extenuating circumstances and be able to explain yourself why you can't file. There is no further extensions, but the IRS often will just, grant you that you did your due diligence, you tried. So that's That's the biggest thing. They want to see that you tried. But it's possible that, I mean, I don't know how long this is going to go on, and some people may not ever get their documents and they may have to guess. So if you have all your documents, go ahead and file. If you don't have all your documents, file an extension by July 15th online. They're free. And if you still can't file by October 15th, if it's getting to the end of September and you still don't have your documents, I would strongly advise talking to a tax professional to see what your options are at that point.
Very good. Thank you. Does anyone else have other questions for Diane? If not, Diane, where can people get more information on tax topics?
On tax topics, with the IRS, I just go to irs.gov. The latest information on all the coronavirus changes, frequently asked questions pages, they've been updating their website amazingly. I don't know, I know they've laid off most of the people at the IRS, but apparently they haven't laid off their web department. They're doing great with what are you available to do, what can you get. They've really actually impressed me, which takes a lot. I'm really glad that they're actually updating things and taking care of this. If you need information from the state, the governor is on every day at 1 o'clock. And if you're not watching the governor's updates, he has a YouTube channel and you can rewatch them. He gives us statistics every day, but that's where he announces like what's going to open, what's not going to open, what affects your business or where you work, you know, especially with industry and especially if you've been shut down. Watching the governor's YouTube channel has been, that's where I've gotten a lot of information that I couldn't find anywhere else, as I go back and find it on his YouTube videos. And you can always, you know, send me a text, send me a Facebook message. I try to get to everybody. I'm super backed up. I'm really trying hard to keep everybody caught up. And there's, I mean, I'm doing a lot of stuff like this too, which, you know, I'm trying to keep everybody informed, but it's a lot. It's a lot of long days. So, but always send me a message if you have a specific question.
Wonderful, thank you. I did want to share, Virginia has left, but before she left, she put in the chat, this has been amazing. Thank you to the wonderful Fayettevilleans for hosting and to Diane for sharing her brain with us, sending love and jazz hands. So on that note.
Virginia is a dance teacher and she actually made an attempt to teach me dance last year, but yeah, no.
Oh,
anyway.
You are a wealth of information, and it has been very helpful. I appreciate this. I'm glad I attended.
Thank you for having me. I love being here, and anytime you guys would have me back, I'd love to come back and do it again.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Diane. I really appreciate it, and thanks to everybody else for coming. We will be back next week with another topic on conversations for COVID-19. We'll be having someone from the health department talking about how to safely re-enter public spaces. So we'll look forward to seeing you back here then. And have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.